Night. So Tears for Fears then, they have their new live album out today, Songs for a Nervous Planet, with those 4 new songs as well, and their new concert film, which is in cinemas worldwide tomorrow, Tears for Fears Live, a Tipping Point film. So we had a chat about their audiences and how they now see different generations in front of them enjoying the music, and how songs like Shout and Everybody Wants to Rule the World still resonate with fans old and new. And we also talked about the importance of their A&R person in breaking America, where they were and still are really big. And that success came about with their second album, Absolute Radio.
Songs from the Big Chair was simple. It's like, our A&R man, the guy who signed us, called David Bates, he was just like, you got to put out another single. You got to put out another single. So any song that came along that kind of sounded singly, like Mother's Talk, he said, you do that now, you do that now. And then at some point he said, okay, take a month off, come up with some more songs. Luckily, and very luckily, we had Shout, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, I Believe, all done in the month. And suddenly Dave's ambitions were like, it sounds
You've got to break American.
I want to break America. Yeah. He wanted to break America. We didn't want to break America. We didn't really think about it. But he pushed us and pushed us and pushed us. Rightly. Quite rightly. He was really good at his job.
Shout and Everybody Wants to Rule the World were so relevant back in the day. They are still today as well, aren't they? Politically, socially.
Yeah, no, we've had that conversation so many times, that the fact that the more things change, the more they stay the same.
Absolutely.
The politically and socially, nothing much has changed over the years. Just the way they're viewed has changed.
But each generation discovers these songs, and will continue to do so, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think,
so. You must see that in your audiences, surely.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
3 generations we get now.
Yeah.
It's incredible. But as Kurt often says, because we were writing the first album from that period of adolescence where we were leaving childhood behind, whenever anyone else gets to that same age, they identify with those songs.
And more from Tears for Fears now. Sitting in the studio with Kurt and Roland the other day, I couldn't miss this opportunity of asking them about one of my all-time favourite songs. And not just my favourite Tears for Fears song. It really is one of those songs that will always stop me in my tracks when I hear it. To me, it's absolute perfection. Absolute Radio. Can I just ask you about my favourite track on The Hurting, Pale Shelter, which still to this day...
It's a lovely song.
Makes my heart swell, and I get to play it quite a lot on Absolute 80, so I'm very happy about that. Yeah. Tell me the story behind Pale Shelter.
Well, it was, again, comes from the period I was talking about. It sounds like a love song. It is a love song, but it's a love song to our parents, if you see what I'm saying. The title comes from my wife at the time had a lot of art books. That was her thing. So the title is stolen from Henry Moore's painting of, I believe, homeless people called Pale Shelter. And it was really for us, again, written on acoustic guitar like all the songs for The Hurting. But it was the first time, I think, that we had a combination on the go of acoustic guitars, strums, the Giorgio Moroder kind of synthesizer, the ambient snare, the claps that were straight from a Debbie Harry or Blondie track.
Well, even the drum pattern from the Blondie track.
Exactly, Heart of Glass. Heart of Glass. So, yeah. But when we finished that, we thought, this is good. Much better than Suffer the
Children. Then it flopped.
It did.
Because this was the second single, wasn't it?
It was the second single that didn't do anything,
No.
Initially.
Well, it made a bit of noise in the clubs in New York and LA.
Yeah.
But it did feature on the album. You did decide to put it on the album, but a slightly re-recorded?
It was re-recorded in a not so good way. I thought the first recording by Mike Howlett was very close to the demo, but we re-recorded it with Chris. Chris and Ross.
And then it became a hit second time.
Telling me all about Pale Shelter from the Hurting album, the first album, one of my all-time favourite songs. 80s songs, Tears for Fears songs, all-time favourite songs. I adore it. In fact, there's a fantastic live version of that on the new live album, Songs for a Nervous Planet, which is out today. And you can watch them perform it as well on their concert film, Tears for Fears Live, a Tipping Point film, which is in cinemas worldwide tomorrow. And I'm sure after that, it will be streaming very soon as well. We also got onto the subject of Mad World, which, if it was down to them, probably would have just made it as a B-side.
Absolute Radio.
I don't think any of us really thought, or when I say any of us, myself or Ronan really thought Mad World was a single.
No,
at
definitely
all.
not.
And,
Why not?
Well, because it was too obtuse. It was too weird.
Well,
it wasn't.
The song itself on acoustic guitar was written very up tempo, so and it was the same rhythm as Girls on Film by Duran Duran, or the same. His guitar is jat 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 jat. So it sounded terrible, and it was me singing as well. It just sounded really bad. So this is a B-side. So it was only when we took it up to a demo studio, and we got rid of the acoustic guitar. We put it on drum machine with a pitch transposer, a bass synth, and then I sang it, and I listened to it, and I thought, this is just rubbish. And I said, Kurt, go on.
Over to you, Kurt.
Over to you. And he sang it, and he had, reading the lyrics as he sang, and I listened back to it, and I thought, why? I mean, I honestly could not believe at that time the difference a voice would make, and I took the demo to the record company, Dave Bates, and I said, listen to this B-side, it's really good. And he listened to it twice, and he turned around with a confidence I never quite got used to, and he said,
Yeah, he was, but yeah.
He said, that's not a B-side, that's your next single.
The man knew.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, and we thought, and to be honest, I'm not convinced that even Dave thought it was going to be as big as it was. I think he thought it was going to gain us a lot of credibility and do well, but...
That's why he used the giant pink duck on the billboards to advertise it, because he wanted us to have credibility.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But musical credibility is what I'm talking about. But, because it was... as far as production went, it was incredibly interesting for its time, and different to anything else that really was being played.
It was
Elvis Costello who was in the US doing US radio, and they asked him about the British music scene and the new wave, and he played Mad World.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Kudos.